Hi, everybody. This is, well, you know who I am. I'm Craig Diamond. I host the show. This is Diamond's Corner. We got another edition. We have Dan LaSavage, my guest today. He's founder and CEO of Combat Corner, a great brand that most of you guys have heard about. What's up, Dan?
What's going on, Craig? How you doing?
Doing good. Hanging out. You know, we're still in this COVID thing and on the lockdown, but we're going to get through it and be positive and get back to normal life hopefully soon. So
yeah, I would assume it's definitely, I mean, affecting your business. It's affecting my business and pretty much all of our customers' businesses because you know, gym owners and athletes, you know, they're pretty limited in what they can do right now. So
it is, and you know, that's honestly one of the reasons we started this show, was just to try to do something different and use some of the time to try new things and learn. And like I talked about before we got on air, I interviewed a lot of interesting guys and fighters and successful, motivated people that have given me tips. I mean, even, you know, writing out your to-do list and, you know, making the most out of your 24 hours, or if you're stuck at home. And so it's been inspiring for me too. And we're all learning how to adjust to crazy times, because it's not going to be the first crazy thing that we see in our lifetime, at least.
For sure. I mean, we actually, you know, just touching on the COVID stuff and everything like that, we did jump in right away and start repurposing and redoing stuff here so we could make masks. So we've been making masks for a while. When we were originally looking at your cups, you know, we thought about using those, using those cups as a mask for a little bit. But
no, I mean, so, you know, I was going to talk to you about that. You definitely kind of turned on a dime and started sewing, and I see you're looking for sewers and people to help you. Tell me about the process to learn how to make a mask and learn how to sew and what's going on.
So, I mean, we've had full in-house production for quite a while. So like really doing it isn't that difficult. It was just making sure that we had materials we could work with. And then because of the nature of the virus, some of our workers don't want to work. You know what I mean? So that's why we have some machinery that's sitting empty. Some of them can't work. You know, some of them have immune deficiencies. Some of them have kids that are home from school and they don't have nowhere to take them. So we're a little limited in staff, but who we got, we brought in. I was able to not only, you know, figure out how we made our pattern, which we did take some basic patterns and adjust to make it so that I felt it was a better mask. And then also because of the shortage on materials and elastic and things like that, we also started using, we have like probably a couple hundred, you know, rash guards from over the years that are brand new rash guards that just didn't meet quality standards, because we do custom rash guards for thousands of schools. Yep. So we were able to strip those out and make the ear straps on these masks using rash guard material, actually, which is more comfortable and is higher end actually than normal elastic. You know, as far as getting up and rolling, it took about a day to figure that out, and then another day to get production like an assembly line where we could get up to speed, and that's what we're doing.
Quick.
Yeah, so we're busting through the stuff. It's just we're limited by the amount of people we have. So really we're masks all day right now, you know, and it's cool because, you know, we keep some people who want to be employed. We, you know, are helping people who need these things, including donating some of these masks to various programs and stuff. And then we are donating 10% to the United Way a coronavirus fund as well. So just, you know, hitting on a bunch of different things all at the same time. Is it what I want to do? No, I would prefer to sell, you know, fight equipment, stuff for martial arts and things like that, like we normally do. But, you know, at times like this, you got to make changes, right?
There is a vodka distillery close to my house. They're brand new. They opened up making high-end vodka, and literally they emptied the tanks and started making hand sanitizer.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
so it's,
actually, that's pretty funny. I actually heard about that. That's really cool though. Like the companies that are able to adjust and do something that's valuable now, is not only good for, you know, the community, but it's also good for them as a company to stay relevant and current. And that's the sign of, you know, a company that, you know, has the flexibility to withstand shit like this. You know, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry about
no, we're swearing on this program. That's fine.
Right.
So one cool thing I like about you, and it seems like you just get your hands dirty. Well, I know you get your hands dirty, and you're actually sewing them yourselves, and you're sitting down. I mean, at least the first few prototypes and designing that. When did you learn to sew?
I've been sewing for quite a while. So really, everything that's ever started in this business, I learned how to do first. So we have full in-house production when it comes to screen printing. We do dye sublimation. We do cut and sew stuff. And we do a lot more beyond that. I could get into all of that, but all of that I first learned. Then I figured out the equipment I wanted to buy, bought the equipment, and I trained people I hired on that equipment. So at any point in time when I want to go into the back and there's something going on or I don't like or I want to adjust something, I know how to do it. I go overseas every year. I go, Thailand, China, all these different countries, and I work in the factories too. And they're also surprised that I know how to do these things. But I feel that gives me an edge over, my competitors who don't know shit about their products really. They just know how to brand them. So, I mean, I can brand products, but I also know everything about them.
Yeah, and that's one thing I learned early in starting this business. And I mean, you were one of our first customers. I mean, I remember taking a trip to you years ago and, having a pizza with you and your employees and you at your old location and you saying, hey man, this is a really cool concept and product. And I think these will sell well, even though they're 2 and 3 times the cost of, cups on the market. We wanted to design something that actually works and is quality. And so many of your competitors, it's just branding and colors, and not a lot of guys are, and even though they say they do and they advertise, they make real cool Instagram posts, and they may have a ruler and a tape measure and act like they're sewing, and I don't want to say any names, but it's one thing to actually spend, and there's an actual thing. The other thing is to get your hands dirty, and like you said, be willing to suck it up and not sell something because it doesn't meet your quality, your standards, and not let a rash guard hit a customer of yours because it just doesn't meet your quality. And I respect that about you guys too. I think that's important.
That's what I always respect about Diamond MMA, and that's why we did carry you early on, even though you were more expensive. But I also respected the fact that you weren't willing to budge on the idea of what quality was and making a product like that. That's the reason we carry it. There's very few brands we actually carry that we don't own. So we have a portfolio of our own brands beyond the Combat Corner brand. And there's maybe only about 5 or 6 other brands that we distribute. And the reason we do that is because they're complementary brands, that we don't make those specific products, and we want to carry something that is on the same caliber as the rest of our line. And that's you. That's Diamond MMA. The product is great. So that's why we carry it. We don't the only thing we ever hear is the price complaints, but it's like, once you have one, then you don't complain about it anymore because you like it. Like if you buy something and you like it, a lot of times it doesn't matter what it costs. It's if you like it that much better than everything else.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, yes, we're more, but you're protecting your family jewels. I mean, it's worth the investment. And one thing I think we both bring to our businesses and brands is authenticity. So we started just designing t-shirts back in 2008. I didn't even know why. I just wanted to get into the business, and I realized talking to fighters that they're like, no, we need a good cup is what we need. And so we kind of scrapped everything and really wanted to focus on making something that these guys want. And we met with the fighters, we work with the fighters, and I train a little bit myself, and so I actually wear our products. Similar to you, tell us a little bit about your fight background, how you kind of hooked up with Duke Rufus, Coach Rufus, and then how did that help with building your brand?
Sure. Well, I guess, my journey started way back, but I started training, I believe, for, actual competing and fighting in probably about 2004. I'd done some martial arts when I was a kid, but not on a level where I was actually going to compete to fight. So I think in about 2004 is when I actually started training that way. And it was under Duke Rufus. And at that time, he was only a striking gym. It was only a kickboxing Muay Thai gym. So I remember fighting Muay Thai and kickboxing, and then being like, hey man, I want to fight MMA. And he was promoting shows at the time. And me and Adrian Serrano, who's an old school MMA vet from the area, fought the MMA fights on that card. And that was the reason there was MMA on that show. And I'm really kind of like the first guy to fight MMA out of Duke's gym that was like solely training out of his gym. And now it's one of the most dominant, I don't want to say dominant, but one of the most respected, gyms in the world for MMA, which is crazy how quickly it went from being one disciplined gym to, like what it is now. And I fought as an amateur in boxing, Thai boxing, and MMA. I fought professionally in Thai boxing and MMA. I fought for about maybe 6 years pro, and then I had opened this company. And during that time, I kind of had a transitional thing going on where business became more important to me, and I just hung up the gloves from competing and focused on making gloves.
So were gloves your first product?
My first product, I would say, so to get back to where we really started, I mean, we started as a retailer. So we started carrying every brand you can think of, because you remember in 2007, it was like really hot, right? That's when I opened a store, and we were carrying everyone else's brands, you know, like all the clothing and then some gear. We were carrying like, you know, Tap Out and Sinister brand and, you know, Throwdown, all that shit, right? And we carried some equipment like Combat Sports and Windy and all the various brands that we used to carry back then. And within about 7-8 months, I had a lot of feedback, unbiased feedback about the equipment, because it wasn't my brand. So if someone came in, would tell me something positive or negative, they would just tell me. They weren't afraid to say.
No, that's interesting. You really heard the real feedback. Yeah.
Right. So hear real feedback. So I knew what everyone was selling at. I knew what they were making, where they were making, how they were making it. I knew what people really liked, what they didn't like. And that's when I started making our first stuff, which took the best aspects of each item that people liked to create something. And that's how most people start, is they start with something, right? And then eventually it became, you know, to where I am now, where I feel I have a really good grip on what makes products good and how to make them, with feedback from current athletes and coaches. And then I merge all that to make our own products. But, you know, in the past, it was kind of like we wanted, you know, this aspect from this item, this aspect from this item, and we're going to merge it and create something better. You know, it's not always about reinventing the wheel. Sometimes, you know, it's about making it better.
We did the same thing. You know, I mean, with the help of a lot of the, you know, Anthony Pettis was a big, you know, influence and kind of, you know, testing our prototypes early days, and guys at AKA in California. And we would interview them and say, hey, what do you like about your current cups and what don't you like? And these guys were wearing a jock strap with a pair of underwear with a pair of compression shorts over that, and then the duct tape. It was crazy what they were doing to try to keep a cup. Yeah, I mean, or you probably wore the Muay Thai cup with the shoelace up your ass.
No, I'll tell you a story. The first time I ever wore one of those, it wasn't tied on tight enough, and I got kneed in the balls, and my ball was like under the side of the cup, and it smashed. So it was way worse than not wearing a fucking cup. So I never wore one of those again. And we sell them if they're tied right. They do work really well as an alternative. But in general, because of the string thing and all that stuff, yeah, I mean, and the ones that now have elastic or whatever, they still can shift and move. Like I said, there's a reason we carry yours, because we do sell the steel cups still, and they're cheaper, but they're not the diamond cups. And I'll say that right off the bat. It's like, we carry yours as the premium cup. It's the better cup. Some people like that traditional Thai style cup, but that's my experience with the Thai style cup in competition, in a fight, getting my ball crushed. So. Yeah,
no, I mean, and that's, again, like if all the beans aren't, and Frank aren't inside the cup, and one's outside the cup, can do damage. And the Thai cups are definitely protected, but they got to be tied on usually by someone else.
They got to be tied on perfect, yeah.
So again, I think it's good. It's a good lesson for anybody starting a business. Is and I've talked about this before on this show, is identify a problem with your users. Talk to the people you want to sell something to and ask them, hey, what do you like and what don't you like about I don't care if it's a bra or a makeup brush or, you know, a skateboard or whatever. I mean, talk to the end users and say, hey, what could improve? What improvement could you see in the product you're using? And listen to them, and don't be afraid to keep changing and innovating and making new versions.
The only thing that matters is what your customer or user experience is with your product. That's it. Nothing matters in the middle. It doesn't matter how much time you spent on it, what you think about it, how great you think it is, or how great your staff thinks it is. It only matters what the final person and the consumer feel and about the product. If they got what they wanted, if it over delivers, if they find value. So that's really all that matters. That's what I drill into my people here is I don't give a shit about anything in the middle, anything in the beginning. I only care about the end, which is it landing in the final person's hands.
And then being happy.
They're happy with their purchase. You know, that's what matters in any business.
I know, let me ask you a question. I know I've had nightmare stories, you know, in this business and waiting for shipments of product that come and they don't come, or they come. Give me a tough story, early days or even recent days, about, you know, a growing pain about a product or some obstacle you had to overcome besides the COVID thing, obviously.
Hold on a second. I mean, I guess probably one of the, just because you brought in importing and stuff like that, I remember this is probably 10 years ago now. And I was, it was my first vacation. So first time I had a vacation, probably 3 or 4 years. You know, my company, I didn't pay myself for years, you know, and all of a sudden I finally started making money. So, cause I was living off fighting. That's truly when I decided I would stop fighting, is because I started making money with the business.
That's great.
I was on vacation in Florida for a week, for a wedding. And I'm down there, and we had a shipment come in, and sure enough, the shipment comes in. My employees are all excited. They divide up the container, they put everything away. And then I get a call from customs, and they tell me that there's something wrong. They found a mislabeled something in a package that was left behind, and that they needed to re-examine the whole container. And I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that. We already kind of disassembled and put everything into inventory. So we had to undo everything we had already done and then bring it back in, and then discovered that they didn't like the way that a rash guard was labeled, a single rash guard, that it basically, instead of the labeling being in the nape of the neck, which is required on all top garments in the United States, it was labeled in the side seam, which in the US is not allowed by US Customs. So we had to reprint and relabel them in-house, which we were able to do, but it was just a nightmare process because they wouldn't let us sell anything else in that whole container until we had properly labeled those like 50 rash guards. And I was and nothing had been arranged at that time for the labeling. So I had to the stuff had to sit there for those days until I got back from Florida, because our staff was much smaller then. And I had to arrange to get labeling so that we could then label those products to be able to sell the rest that was in inventory. So
then you had to pull all the stuff off. Did you put stuff on the shelves and put it away already?
It was already put away on the shelves and everything. And we had to pull it all off the shelves. We had to put it into like a quarantine area. Then the Customs Border Patrol had to come out and physically inspect everything, which everything was right. Even the product that they're saying wasn't right was still labeled. It had country of origin. It had material content. It had everything. It was just sewn on in the wrong position. And that was a nightmare. And then I made friends with one of the inspectors and stuff like that. And she was very helpful going forward, where we've never had a problem like that again. When it came to that specific issue, you know, importing is importing. So you're always going to run things here and there. But that's what I try to tell people when they talk about, you know, bringing stuff in all the time, is like, you may get lucky here, you may get lucky there, but if that's not what you know and what you're focused on, you're going to get bit eventually. So
I'm kind of laughing and smiling as you tell this story, because I've been through similar stuff, and I could just picture you on your vacation for the first time in Florida when you get that call and it ruins your vacation instantly. And now,
I was on the phone for like hours. They're all like, why is, like, it was a mess. It was a mess.
But that's what it is. That's starting a business. And if you want to take the risk and hopefully gain the reward, you're going to hit those speed bumps along the way. I mean, the same thing. I remember we had a trade show at UFC in Texas, and we had to pick up, you know, maybe 1,000 or 500 pairs of compression briefs or compression jocks at the time. And we went to our sewer in Oakland, California, who was sewing them by hand at the time, and we had our duffel bags ready, and we go to pick up all the pairs, and we say, all right, we're ready for them. And he goes, we don't have as many as you wanted. And we go, well, how many do you have? He goes, 0 out of like the 1,000. He had like nothing. We had to get on a plane the next day. So I mean, just things like that. It's
production is hard, man. And like I always, you guys have, you know, bounced around a little bit with production, but you've always kept the product to the quality standards it needs to be. But that's difficult to do. Is if you don't physically have your own production facility, then you have to rely on partners, right? And even if you have your own production facility, that's even harder. Like, I swear, like, it's even harder because you have to manage everything. Like that. But the worst thing is not knowing, and that's what you ran into, is where you thought someone was doing something and you didn't find out they didn't have shit done until you got there, which is the worst case scenario.
It's the worst, but it's another example of sucking it up, figuring it out, and making it work. And I think what we had to do is he got more sewers in. They ended up FedExing what they could, like the day before, hours before it started. And you make it work. Just like now, we're trying to make things work. And you guys, kind of switching to masks for the time being, and the vodka company switching to hand sanitizer. You got to just roll with the punches and do your best.
You got to be able to problem solve. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to figure shit out. Like, you can't just accept like, oh, too bad, it didn't work. I mean, if you're going to just accept, circumstances or whatever position you're in, if it's not where you want to be, then that's what you're going to get,
What advice would you give to someone starting up business? Let's just say in the combat sports area or market. I mean, maybe we gave it already talking. I mean, what would you say to someone starting up that is passionate about the space we're in and wants to just be in business somehow, whether it's
to start a company within martial arts?
Yeah, I mean, what advice would you give?
Fill a need first. If it's just, like you said, you tried to jump into the t-shirt game. The t-shirt game was like very enticing, right? Back then, like everyone wanted to start a tap out or whatever. That was what I remember about 15 years ago. Everyone wanted to tap out, and
you'd have to pay them $7,000 to $10,000 for them to wear your shirt and go a hat and a walkout shirt. At the time, could have been $10,000 for them just to walk out into the octagon. I'm talking, 10 years ago.
That's why all those companies are gone.
Exactly.
So we handle sponsorship completely different than pretty much all the other companies in our industry too, which some people love and some people don't. And that's okay. Like, we're not for everybody, and we don't sponsor everybody. I think that's probably something that our industry is probably one of the worst industries when it comes to understanding what sponsorship really is.
Yep.
I can try to educate to a degree, but I tend to try to educate and work with the athletes I want to work with anyways. If I'm not here to educate, people that don't agree with what we're doing anyways. So it's kind of like, if you don't agree with what we're doing or how we're doing it, that's okay. We don't have to, work together. But when it comes down to it, it's really like, that was one of the more difficult parts of the game to understand. And that's why, like I said, a lot of those companies, if you think back probably like 12, 15 years ago, all the companies.
UFC 100. I mean, we basically launched a UFC 100. Sorry to cut you off. But the tap out bus, they had an RV that rolled into the play. I mean, there was Sinister, Throwdown, Triumph, Sprawl, Echo, the big New York clothing company. I mean, there were probably 50 to 100 brands at those times.
And most of them are gone. And the other ones that are still around might be licensed. They might not even be doing what they were originally doing. I mean, think about tap out. Tap out doesn't even exist in the MMA space anymore. That was the thing, is I never wanted to be those brands. And that was why I think we had a chance for success, is because I was focused on equipment and gear, like hard goods. I call them hard goods.
Yeah.
And the reason is there's plenty of other equipment brands out there, but there wasn't as many. And I felt could be like drastic improvements. It's pretty difficult to improve a t-shirt. It's like, how many more sequins can you put on that fucker? Or how many more shred marks, at the time when Affliction was killing it and shit, which.
Those t-shirts were brutal.
So that whole thing, I'm glad, and I like the fashion apparel industry. Like, I've been to like many major trade shows like Agenda and Magic and all these things when it comes to, like streetwear and things like that. So I have a complete understanding, and I actually have a lot of respect for that industry, but that's not the industry that I felt I could jump in and be super competitive in without having crazy money. So I feel like you did, you made a smart decision by filling a need. You felt you saw that this is what was available. I'm going to fill a need in an area that isn't super congested with the same, or with different companies selling the same fucking product with different branding.
Right.
And you guys did that. Like, you could have went and just got a generic cup from whatever provider, got a supporter, and then slapped a logo on it, and that would have been your brand. But instead, you created a product that was truly unique. And that's the difference between a brand and a company and a product versus, just whoever else is out there doing garbage.
Right. Just slapping a label on something.
Right.
No, I appreciate that. And thanks. I mean, and guys like you and all the fighters that we come in contact to that supports our brand, helps out. So, just to kind of wrap up, what are you up to now? I mean, tell us where we can find you. I mean, if if you're a gym out there, tell us a little bit about what you can do for people that are listening.
I mean, truthfully, about our company, we deal primarily B2B. So yeah, we sell most of our products to gyms and schools that resell to their students. So our primary customer base is martial arts schools, primarily Thai boxing, MMA, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools. And we have, great products at, great margins where they can make money. And then for, everyone else, retail-based customers, we also do offer all these products online as well. And we control all of our products the same way we spoke about throughout this whole conversation. So, as far as finding us, combatcorner.com, we're all over social media. So you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, things like that. But what's next for us really is just continued evolution of products that we both produce internationally and then here. We do have our distributors across the globe now. We have our offices in Norway and Colombia as well. So we're looking to continue to grow our global reach.
Cool.
But really what I'm focused on doing here is doing some continued. I really love the high-end products. I like doing cool shit. I put just as much attention into our entry-level products because that's really what makes us most of our money is our entry-level product line. But I still am passionate about making awesome stuff. So, our HMIT line of products is one of my favorites where I put a lot of time and effort into that product line, which is our handmade in Thailand line. But as we're doing more and more here in the U.S. as well, you're going to see more products, especially on a high level, that we're going to be producing out of our factory here in-house in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we have a new line of heavy bags that we're doing here in-house. Mostly we've just been doing custom one-offs for gym partners that we work with when it comes to those, but our gi program that we do in-house and things like that. So that's really where we're going next and just focusing on the one thing that I said was important in business, which is the customer experience.
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely do this again. We're going to wrap up. Guys, check out Combat Corner. We're all going to be getting back on the mats and in the gym soon. So I'm sure you guys have some good deals going on right now and pick up some gear. And, thanks again for being one of our longtime customers and you being a big inspiration as an entrepreneur in a business to me. So thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me on, and I'll see you soon at some event, I'm assuming. So
definitely. All right. Take care. Thanks.
All right. Bye.